All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to Last Take. This is the first video in a special series. Rob and I both big Major League Baseball fans. We figured with the season coming up, we would do some more baseball content, try some different things. So we had an idea for a video series. We're going to break it up by division. So tonight is the AL East. And the concept is there's a redraft in baseball, and every team is only allowed to keep three players, and that's not just three players off the major league roster. That's three players in the entire organization. So you got a prospect in single A you're really excited about. He's one of your three guys. So there's two rules to this. Rule number one: when you're deciding to keep a player, you're keeping them at their current contract value and years of control. So if the Yankees decide to keep Garrett Cole, they keep Garrett Cole in the remaining 8 years, $290 million he's owed. If the Rockies were to keep Trevor Story, they get 1 year of Trevor Story. So years of control is something that's going to play into this a lot. And then rule number two: have fun, because this is fun. I hope you guys roast us. I hope some, Marlins fan sees my list and gets enraged that I left off some guy that he probably loves and I have never even heard of. So did our best to research, but at the end of the day, it's tough. You're limiting an entire franchise to three players. So
we're going to do our best to
have fun. Yeah. Hopefully, I tweeted this out today. I tweeted at the AL East one, got a lot of responses. I think it's a pretty fun topic. It's obviously a ridiculous idea. It would never happen if there was an expansion draft. You'd be able to keep way more than three players, but limiting it to three is pretty interesting to see who really are the most valuable players for each franchise.
Yeah, Nick, you closed it up perfectly. I was going to say, this is really, when it comes down to it, it's not about talent, and to a degree, it's not even about years of control. It's about the value of the player. And, some players, although maybe more talented in the moment, there's guys that are coming up where you're like, I can't see this organization ever moving on without him. So that's kind of like where I kind of brought a lot of my thought process from, and kind of thinking like, well, what is this organization in the future and right now without this guy? So I feel like that's kind of where you got to center your thought process. At least that's where I did. So, and you said Marlins fans. I don't know, what is there, like 13 of those max?
I have at least one Marlins fan follower. Shout out First Place Fish. I don't know if I have any more than one, but I have at least one. So I'll probably be consulting them when we get around to the NL East. But let's get right down to it. We're going to go in the order that the teams placed in the division last year. Rays were 2020 AL East champions. So, Bert, who were your three Tampa Bay Rays that you would protect?
So the first two, to me, were pretty simple. I got first Wander Franco. I mean, I think that's pretty much a given. He's the number one prospect in baseball. He's better, or supposed to be better, than what Gleyber Torres is supposed to be. And Gleyber Torres is already really good. Right. And this guy's supposed to be better than that. I don't even know if there's a comparison, because I mean, like, when you talk about the best shortstops in baseball history, I know this isn't outreach right now, but when you talk about the best shortstops in baseball history, you think Cal Ripken, you think Jeter, you think Ty Cobb, like guys like that. And this guy's supposed to literally have it all. Maybe not as much power as I guess you can even say like someone like Ripken, or obviously like A-Rod, or even like the more current shortstops that we see. But I mean, this guy's just supposed to be able to do it all. So when you think about this organization, you don't see the future without Wander Franco. He's not somebody we've seen yet. And maybe you've seen some minor league highlights. But this guy is supposed to be the future of baseball. I mean, you can imagine what Fernando Tatis is, Fernando Tatis Jr., what Acuna is. I'm trying to think of other young, exciting players. Pretty much every team has one now. But like guys that are like, when you watch them, you're like, this is what baseball is. This is the future of baseball. That's this guy, and he's going to be on the Rays for a very long time. So I think he's a lock. Past that is my second one is Austin Meadows. I think this guy, I think he's 24 right now, super young, super talented, kind of already a Yankee killer, somebody that I think that he just sort of solidifies that lineup. That lineup is very stable all throughout. I don't think anyone is really that elite, but if anyone is going to be, It's Austin Meadows. He has the most potential. I think he's the most talented hitter on that team right now. So I mean, he's my number 2 pick. And the third one, I had a lot of trouble with. I think that's kind of the case with a lot of these people. I think there's 2 obvious picks. I'm sorry, with a lot of these teams, there's 2 obvious picks, and then there's one where it's kind of like, all right, I'm down to my last one. Like who do I really, really want here? And I debated here between Glasnow, one of their top bullpen pieces like Castillo, Nick Anderson, because that is the Rays are really the only team where I would ever consider like a bullpen piece. But because it's such like a big part of their organization, I'm like, all right, well, who's the guy that really locks that down for them? But at the end of the day, I'm like, it's the bullpen. These guys are replaceable. Relievers are hard to come by. Hard to be consistent with. So I went with Randy Arozarena as my third one. I think that Glasnow is really talented, but we've seen him get absolutely shelled, specifically in the postseason. And I do think that someone who throws that hard with that much effort is going to, kind of die out a little quicker. And I think Arozarena, only being 24 years old, his minor league numbers, first 2 years weren't amazing, but his third minor league year when he was with the Cardinals was just ridiculous. He batted 350 for the year. So clearly it wasn't a fluke season. It wasn't a fluke postseason. I think he's wildly talented. You saw him being able to hit the ball all parts of the field. So I think that that's someone that they really need to hold on to. So him paired with Franco, Meadows, and Arozarena, I think that's those are 3 guys that you got to go with for your Tampa Bay Rays.
Right. So I'm with you on Wander Franco. He was my number 1 too. I mean, he's the number 1 prospect in baseball. So obviously prospects don't always pan out, but if you're the number 1 prospect, there's a pretty damn good chance of that. So not only is that a move that helps them in the long term, but I think that he's a guy that can make an impact as early as this year. So Wander Franco, no brainer. Rays are going to keep him. My number 2 guy was someone you actually didn't mention. I went with Brandon Lau. He's only 26. He's already shown that he can be, a great hitter at the major league level. I think this is a guy, he's already been an all-star once. I think he's going to be an all-star a bunch more times. He has 6 years of control left, which was pretty shocking to me. He doesn't hit free agency till he's like 31. So I think given how good he is now and how controllable he is, Brandon Lau is my number 2. And then the third spot is tough for the Rays. A lot of the guys you named, Randy Arozarena, what he did in the playoffs was unbelievable. It was the kind of run we haven't seen in years. So at the same time, am I going to protect a guy based off of just strictly the playoffs? I know he's a top 100 prospect. I know he has a high upside, but I also protected 2 hitters already. So Tyler Glasnow is another guy I was kicking around. He also is 27. He's got 3 years of control left. So I think the next part of his career can definitely be where he kind of taps into it and figures it out. You look at a guy like Garrett Cole, who didn't really figure it out fully until he was 28 and put it together. So I do think that's coming from Glasnow. But at the same time, with 3 years of control left, is a team like the Rays really going to retain him? So that's why I went Luis Patino for 3. The main return in the Blake Snell trade, he's probably going to be in the major leagues this year. A lot of upside. I think he's the number 19 prospect. So I wanted to go Glasnow here. Shout out to Rake and Randy, my Rays friend on Twitter. He had Glasnow as his third guy. He had Franco, Lau, Glasnow, and I try to take opinions of other fan bases into it because obviously they know the team much better than I do. But just looking into it a little bit closer, I go Patino just strictly because I think he has a lot of upside and he's way more controllable and younger than Glasnow is.
Yeah. And I like your list. I personally, I'm not as high on Lau as a lot of people seem to be. He's great. He's one of the best second basemen. But I mean, he doesn't strike me as someone he strikes me as like a great, like 6-7 hitter. You know what I mean? Like someone who's like, and I'm talking about in like a really, really good lineup. Like if you put him in like the Yankees lineup, I would see him batting like 6 or 7 at Dodgers lineup, like something like that. Just because I feel like he's consistent. I know batting average isn't as much of a metric, and it really shouldn't be as viewed as like the the all the all being as a lot of people try to make it out to be. But I mean, he's 260 to 270 consistently. And I don't know, I just see a lot more potential in Meadows. I mean, but to each your own. I mean, two good lefty bats there that you could make the argument for. As for Glass now, I just discount him because I really just don't like starting pitchers that really only have two go-to pitches. When you make the Garrett Cole comparison, he's got a four seam, two seam that moves disgusting, curveball, slider, and a changeup. And it's just like I don't see Glass now adding. Maybe he gets another pitch. I don't see him adding two or three more. I mean, that's just really something that's really hard to do while being that effective. So that's why I kind of steered away from him. I just don't see him as being as successful as he has been in the past. I think people's kind of starting to figure him out a little bit. But
No,
I could easily be wrong. I do see where people love Glass now.
no, for sure. And I think on Meadows, I'm totally with you. He has a higher ceiling than Lau. I think just we've seen Lau maybe put it together a little bit more consistently early on in his career, and he still has a ton of control. But yeah. I'm with, I think I could have gone either way there. Like you said, both, lefty bats guys you could put in the top half of your order and feel pretty good about. So that's the Rays. We'll move on to the Yankees, second place in the division last year. And this is going to be a tough one. So Bert, what do you have for the Yankees?
So I think you and I are in agreement for the most part on two of these. I think the lock is Garrett Cole. I don't think that he really starts dwindling down anytime soon. And I was really nervous when they gave him 9 years when he was, I believe, 20. He was 29 at the time, right? 28.
I think this was either his age 30 season or his age 29 season.
Yeah. So he was
I think he's 30 right now.
Yeah, so at the time of the contract, I think he was like 28, 29, and then obviously becoming 30. I was a little scared about that, but seeing how well DeGrom has aged, and having that comparison, someone who has a lot of pitches, someone who throws hard, seeing how well DeGrom has aged into like his 33, 34, seasons, that makes me a lot less nervous, and I'm all in on Cole being good at an elite level for the next 5 years. I think that's a lock. And then obviously he'll start to digress around probably like 36, 37, but I think he'll still be good. So Garrett Cole is my lock. You got your ace for the next 5 years. Don't lock it and throw it away. My next one is Gleyber Torres. In the same way we were talking about Franco. Franco or Franco, do you know?
I want to say it
seems like Franco. But I've
heard Franco. I don't know. This isn't a pronunciation podcast.
Yeah, not a pronunciation podcast. And don't worry about it. we read it, which means we didn't hear it. So that
everyone knows who we're talking about. If you're going to complain about it, then fuck you.
Yeah. All right. Fair enough. So in the same way of like him, you got your shortstop of the future. I still think Gleyber Torres is a shortstop. I haven't seen enough yet to discount that, but I can understand people's skepticism. Regardless of what he is defensively, he's going to be one of the best hitting middle infielders in Yankees history. I really, really believe that. He's got such a simple swing. It's so pretty, and it's so simple to the fact where he's not gonna get into these major slumps. The COVID season, kind of discounted. So Garrett Cole, Gleyber Torres, and then my third one, I think that a lot of people would agree with me on this. A lot of people would disagree, but I go Aaron Judge, and it's over Dominguez for the fact that he's only 17. If we were doing this 2-3 years from now, and I had seen him hit against someone throwing 90, 94, 95 with like really good secondary stuff, I'd probably go Dominguez. But I have seen Judge perform at the highest level. I'm willing to put his injuries to the side because I've seen what his peak is. I haven't seen what Dominguez's peak yet is, and while it could be light years past what Judge is because of just his raw talent, I just haven't seen him hit what could be major league pitching yet, and I just can't rely on someone who's just just a unit and pick him over Aaron Judge. Maybe if it was the Rays situation where I wasn't someone I was confident in. But when it's like him or Aaron Judge, I'm going Aaron Judge.
Right. So I'm pretty much with you. The first two, I agree. I think they're almost easy. I think Garrett Cole, you know, is he going to be for the next 8 years of his career as good as he is now? No, but I'm with you. I think he has at least another 4 to 5 years in him where he can be an elite top 5, top 10 pitcher in baseball, the second best pitcher in baseball right now. You could draft 100 pitchers, and there's a good chance none of them will become as good as Garrett Cole is right now. So Garrett Cole, you keep him despite the contract length, despite what you're paying him. It's well worth it. So that's number one. Number two, Gleyber Torres. I'm so excited to see him prove all these doubters wrong because he had a bad, not even did he didn't even have a bad 60-game season. He had like a bad first month of the season. He came in out of shape, wasn't swinging a great bat, got injured, but he came back, played well down the stretch, and raked in the postseason. Like you said, I think he has superstar potential. I'm not going to say his age because I know that's a cliche at this point. You know, he's going into his fourth major league season, but this guy's a two-time All-Star. You know, he just needs to be league average at shortstop. Like, he doesn't need to become Andrelton Simmons. Look at Xander Bogaerts. He was not a great defender early in his career. Now he's probably one of the top 2 or 3 shortstops in all of baseball just because he's average defensively there because he swings a great bat. So I think that's the kind of guy that Gleyber Torres has the potential to become. So I'm keeping that in the middle infielder 100%. And then the third spot is so tricky. Like, I could be talked in so many different directions. Like, I was just writing guys down, like, Judge and Dominguez were 2 very common answers I saw. Like, a lot of answers I saw were Cole, Torres, Judge, Dominguez. Those were the most common 4 easily. I saw a Luke Voit answer, which I actually didn't hate. He's only like 29. He has 4 cheap years of control left, and he's arguably a top, 20 hitter in baseball when he's on. I don't think that's outrageous to say. So Luke Voigt's a potential answer. Or do you want to go pitcher? Luis Severino, if I saw him, pitch a couple of healthy games when he comes back, I could be talked into him very easily. Clark Schmidt, maybe him. Luis Medina was pumping 100 the other night on TV. So there's so many choices that at the end of the day, I'm going to copy you completely. I'm going to go Judge and take the short thing because, yes, he has injury history. Yes, he only has 2 years of control left. But the only thing that we know about Aaron Judge that I don't know about any of these other guys is that when he's healthy and on the field, he's an MVP candidate. People try and take it out of context and act like he's this inconsistent player. And I know he had a bad postseason. He is great whenever he's on the field. The problem with Aaron Judge is if he comes back too close to the playoffs and his swing is not up to par, and then he's facing the best pitching in the world. And even still, he took Shane Bieber and Blake Snell deep. Like, I'm talking about how shitty of a postseason he had, and he still did that and still hit a home run in Game 5. So, like, Aaron Judge, when he's on the field and when he's right, he's the best player on that field. Unless Mike Trout's on the other side, he's the best player on the field when he's right. So I know it's 2 years of control. I know he's injury prone, but I'm with you. I think you got to keep Aaron Judge.
Yeah, and I also think it's in a situation like this, it's a little tough to say this, but he's a staple of the franchise, I think. Mm-hmm. I think that it's tough to move on from someone that you're like, this is his team, and for a long time, not for a long time, but like for the first year or so, you're like, oh, is Aaron Judge going to be a captain? Is Aaron Judge going to be a captain? He acts like it. He presents himself, obviously a huge face of the franchise. I think it's tough to lose that leadership, in a situation. So I'm in agreement with you. I think that the Yankees are in a unique situation. Maybe it's just because we know their farm system a lot better than we do the other teams. But I think that they have one of the most high reward teams out there. It's whether they play out to potential. And I'll take my chances on Aaron Judge as opposed to someone like Luke Voigt or someone younger like Jason Dominguez, where it's like, well, look at this, look what this guy could be. But it's like, all right, well, let's take a second. Let's look at what he is right now. He's only 17. Right.
Exactly. And you just hit on it with Judge. And I think, terms like leadership and locker room guy, like, yes, I get that they could become overused cliches, but you listen to how the Yankees talk about him. Garrett Cole said this guy was like a superhero in the clubhouse. Like, this wasn't like Tyro Estrada or like a young guy coming up saying this. This was Garrett Cole calling Aaron Judge a superhero. So that's why I find it funny when I see takes like, oh, we should have traded Judge for a pitcher. Like, you can't be a win now World Series team and trade Aaron Judge. You just can't. That's not a move that is made. So that's another reason why I think, the 2 years of control is tough. The injury history is tough. There's a lot of other guys that I would want to keep. but keeping Aaron Judge is just something that has to be done. So we'll move on. Third place team was the Toronto Blue Jays. They were a wild card in the expanded playoffs. This is another interesting one, especially given how young and upcoming they are. There's a ton of options. I think I might have written down more people for the Blue Jays as possibilities that I wrote down for any other team. So, Bert, who do you have for Toronto?
So yeah, I agree with you. I think for me the toughest ones was the Red Sox and the Blue Jays. And the Blue Jays, because like a lot of the situations, I have two that I'm like, okay, no, these are my guys. And then the third one, just because you're almost out of spots, becomes really tough. So my first one, Vlad Jr. I really don't think I had to Vladimir Guerrero Jr. I don't think I really had to explain it that much. This guy is one of the most talented hitters we've maybe ever seen. And just his home run derby alone was one of the most electric things I've ever seen. His minor league stats are off the charts. And we haven't seen him really come into his own yet in the MLB, but I also have to say that they've been moving him around defensively a lot. They've been moving him from third to first. And when you have to focus, granted, those are very similar positions, but when you have to focus and when you want to be your best in every part of the field and you have to start changing positions around, it does make you focus less on your hitting. So I'm not too worried about him not being, blowing the cover off the ball, in his first 2 years. So I'm not worried about that. Vlad Guerrero Jr. lock. My second one is Bo Bichette. I think that he, again, like we go back to these shortstops, he's a really good player. I don't know as much about him, but I know that he has awesome hair, and that's got to help. But he's one of the more talented guys. When you watch him, you just know that he's a stud. So I'm taking him as my second one. And my third one, I was torn between Springer. I like Ryu. I don't think that they are the future of this franchise, but taking two position players, I'm like, okay, well, who's the best pitcher in terms of value in that organization? And I went with Nate Pearson. Yeah, so there's a lot of scouting reports on him, but the general one is that he's a dog. He works really hard. He's got a high 90s fastball, and he's really dedicated to getting as many pitches together as he can. So he's got high 90s, a lot of pitches. He's baseball's, I think, number 11 prospect. He's the Blue Jays' number one. Oh no, I'm sorry. I think he was number 11 overall pick. But regardless, he's the Blue Jays' number one prospect. And I don't think that they really have any other pitchers that I'm like, okay, they need to keep this guy long term. And keeping those other two guys, I think that he's the guy to go. And if you ever watch him, he's got a disgusting curveball. It's one of those that moves from like your head to your toes. Like literally, it's just disgusting. And when he's already throwing 90 miles an hour, 90 plus, with the disgusting slider, it's a no-brainer for me.
Right. So I'm with you on two of the three. My first one was Bo Bichette, just because he's a shortstop. He's 22, going to be 23. He's got 5 years of control left. We've seen him swing a great bat. He's good defensively. Just seems like a guy who has like a Tatis type infectious personality where he just infuses life into a team on both sides of the ball. So I think he's going to be a guy that is going to be a franchise cornerstone for them for years to come. Number two, Vlad Jr. Totally in agreement with you. I feel like people got down on him just because I think honestly part of it was some of the other young guys like Bichette putting it together right away, whereas Vlad kind of had some more ups and downs. The kid is still only 21. He's going to be 22 this year. Very controllable. You said it, that home run derby performance was electric. He's got such a great swing. I feel like it's another cliche. I'm going to keep using him, but he's one of those guys where the ball just sounds different coming off his bat. Like you watch him take BP and it's just like, this guy is disgusting. Like you can just tell from his batting practice, he's ridiculous. I think the move from third to first will help him out, can put all his focus towards mashing at the plate instead of having to worry about playing a position like third. And he's Vladimir Guerrero's son, one of the best players that I saw when we were growing up. So those genes, just compared to what we've already seen, I think you got to hold on to Vlad. And then this third spot is tough. I definitely considered Pearson. I like him a lot. I was trying to get a pitcher in here. I thought Ryu too. Didn't make a ton of sense to me. Springer, I like He's also on the wrong side of 30, so I don't know how many more years he even has in center field, and you are paying him 25 million. So I decided to go with another young guy, considered Lourdes Gurriel here too. He's 27 on a very reasonable contract. He's really good. I'm going Kevin Biggio. He's only 25. I figure you put him with a 22-year-old Bichette, 21-year-old Vlad. Keep the young core completely together. Just have three nasty hitters at the top of your lineup and go from there. So, I could be talked into a lot of different directions with that third slot, but I think I'm with you. You go Vlad, you go Bo, and I'll take Biggio for my third one.
Yeah, I looked at Biggio too. It just his potential didn't stand out to me as much as Pearson's did, especially just from the fact that we already had two other position players. But Biggio's a great player too, so I wouldn't discount that. I kind of fall in love with pitchers like pitches. And I was just like watching highlights and I saw his curveball and I was like, that's like, I almost threw up. Like it was disgusting. So I guess I can be a little biased with that, but I think that both players obviously a lot of potential, but my pick is definitely Pearson.
All right, cool. So moving on, the fourth place team, they surprisingly didn't come in last year by one game over the Red Sox, the Baltimore Orioles. So this one was, I don't know if it was tough or if it was easy. There's not a lot of names on the major league roster that jump out at you. I know there was one guy that was super easy. So Bert, we'll start with you. Who do you protect for the Orioles?
For the Red Sox.
No, the Orioles are in fourth.
Oh, geez, sorry.
The Red Sox came in last. People forget.
Wow, Jesus. Yeah. So the first one, I was half paying attention because I was starting to look at my list and pulling up the stats. No, so okay. So the first one that I have is, I think it's the lock. It's for everyone. It's the switch hitting catcher, Adley Rushman. This guy was the first overall pick. He's an absolute stud. He played in the College World Series. Obviously, we don't know too much about him in terms of at the major league level, but his minor league stats are already good. This guy is the no-brainer. He's the future of the organization. You haven't really seen him play that much other than college. But it seems to me like he's the switch hitting Buster Posey. And if you get a guy like that, Buster Posey was the face of that franchise, the Giants franchise, and multiple World Series wins. If you get a guy like that, you hold on to him. And plus switch hitting catchers don't come around very often. I think the first one that comes to everyone's mind is Jorge Posada. And they're just infinitely more valuable just because they see the plate a lot differently. They see the strike zone a lot differently. They're seeing it from both ends, and then they can transfer that over to the defensive side of the ball. So it's just like infinite value. And then the fact that he's already like an offensive stud is just lock it in, forget about it. The next one that I have, and he's their number 2 prospect right now, Grayson Rodriguez. Everything that I read about him is just like unbelievable. I'm pulling up what he's got right now. Oh, I know it's Mountcastle. Well, I had a scouting report pulled up, but he's got 4 to 5 pitches. 90 to 95 was his average. 97 was his tops. Number 2 prospect, a lot of talent. Again, not someone we've seen a lot just because the Orioles have kind of been a dumpster fire for the past few years. But, he's got all the intangibles and the tangibles. So I think he's your go-to. And then, in terms of like past that, it's kind of like, well, I don't know about this guy, don't know about this guy, don't know about this guy. So the one I went with and the one I saw most commonly on your tweet, Nick, was Ryan Mountcastle. When they grade scouting reports, and this is on MLB.com, it's ranked out of 80. So his hit power is 55, his hit 55, power 55, run 45, arm 40, field 40, overall 55. That's pretty good. Obviously not blowing the wall away, but it's something that you can hold your hat on. They say he's got really good contact. So again, we're not gonna act like we're Orioles farm system experts. A lot of these guys are guys we haven't seen. But he seems like he has the most tangible stats and tangible abilities. So I'm going to go with him as my third one.
All right, cool. So I'm with you. Adley Rushman is no doubt the guy you protect. He's the number 2 prospect in all of baseball. Switch hitting catcher that can mash, especially given what catchers are today. None of them really hit at all. So if you have a guy who you think is going to be a stud on both sides of the ball coming up for you, you hold on to him. So he's number 1. Number 2, I'll join you in Grayson Rodriguez. This was a guy I didn't even know existed until today, but you know, right-handed pitcher, the number 27 prospect overall. I feel like that's a guy you should probably hold on to. So him, and then I'm down to my last 2. So I was gonna put Mountcastle in. I was. He's a guy I saw a good amount this year. You know, obviously the Yankees playing the Orioles a lot with the division schedule. He mashed. He had like an 880 OPS. Yeah. He also has only played 35 MLB games. And I saw he's been, this was a guy that was in the futures game, top prospect. He's still in the top 100. I think he's like 78 or something, which I don't understand how a guy is still in the prospects list when I guess 35 games is not enough to take him off, but he's an absolute stud. So I think baseball wise, that would be my pick. But I'm going to change up a little bit and go Trey Mancini for my last pick, just because, he is 27 and he only has, I believe, 2 years of control left, but the guy is a stud. And then you want to talk about a story, to beat cancer, and, he's going to be back for spring training. I think that's awesome. I think given that the first 2 guys I'm protecting haven't even seen the major league level yet, this is a guy who's been in the bigs and produced for years. I think he has the potential to be an absolute stud, especially now that the Orioles have a couple other guys in that lineup like Mountcastle, where he maybe won't get pitched around as much as he was before. So I think given all those factors, what we've already seen from him, and just, sentimentality, what he means to the franchise, I'll take Trey Mancini with my 3rd pick.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a while since we've heard of a career Oriole. But Mancini's been that. He's been with the team since 2016, since he came up 24 years old. I would not discount you for choosing Mancini over him. I feel like, especially when a franchise is rebuilding, there is that need for a veteran presence. And I don't hate the Mancini pick at all, just because I feel like he's someone that can show them show them the ropes essentially. And, he's a perfect guy to do it. It's like you said, great story. And, also really good. I mean, 2019, 35 home runs, 97 RBIs. Like,
right.
That's a really good player. So, only 28, I guess, when at the time of this year. So, yeah, no issues with that one. Mancini and Mountcastle, I think, are interchangeable there.
All right, cool. And then to finish up, the last place Boston Red Sox. This was another tough one for me. Consulted to my Red Sox fan friends, Robbie Hyde, HVT. So, Bert, where'd you go with this one?
Okay, first one, Xander Bogaerts, period, done. so I'm good there. Top 5 shortstop in baseball. I'm good with it. The next one, Alex Verdugo. You could argue there's a lot of guys in that Mookie Betts trade, but Alex Verdugo was probably the one that the Dodgers were the most upset to part with. If you watched him last year, you see why. You see why this guy is, potentially a Mookie Betts replacement. Who knows if he actually becomes that? But I think that's what they saw him as when they traded for him. Major league ready, super young, and a world of potential. So Verdugo, I'm all in on him. I think that they got a great piece back. A lot of people were saying they didn't get enough back for that Mookie Betts trade, but I really, really think they did. And then, I was looking at the Red Sox prospect list, and you see Jeter Downs. And the more I saw of him, the more I read about him, great player. But it came down to me between him and Rafael Devers. And I was just like, okay, this future prospect who don't know much about, really, really talented, or Rafael Devers, who's still really young and led the league in doubles when he was 22 years old. We've seen what he can do. I mean, I think every Yankee fan remembers that home run off of Chapman, a ball coming out 101, and he takes it to the opposite field like it was nothing, and he puts it out of Death Valley in Yankee Stadium at 399. And it was, I think it was his kind of like coming out party when he did that. Everyone was like, oh, okay. So like, we've heard about this guy. He's legit. And I can't see a Red Sox team in the future without him. And I think that he is going to be one of the most talented hitting third baseman that maybe that franchise might ever have. Sorry, Mike Lowell, sorry, Kevin Youkilis. But I think that Rafael Devers is going to be that dude. Obviously, and the fact that he's a lefty bat, and still incredibly young. So my picks are Bogarts lock, Verdugo lock, and then there's a lot of other guys that I think you could choose in that third spot, but I gotta go Rafael Devers there.
Okay, cool. So I'm with you on number one, Xander Bogaerts. This dude feels like he's been around forever because he kind of has. He's still only 28. I know you and I were talking in our group chat earlier today about the top shortstops list in baseball. I would say pretty much everyone would have to agree Bogaerts is at least top 4. You could easily make a case for him to be, number 1. So a guy that talented, he's still young, he's got the experience. I'm definitely keeping him. So that's number 1. Number 2, another guy you mentioned, Rafael Devers. This dude's only 24. He's going into his 5th season in the majors, so it kind of feels like maybe he'd be older. He's only 24. I know he had a bit of a down year last year. Super talented. I've already seen too much of him. He's another Yankee killer. Started with that Chapman homer. He's really fucking good. So if you have a lineup that starts off, you have Xander Bogaerts and Rafael Devers, get righty lefty going. Feel pretty good about that. So Rafael Devers, definitely a guy I would keep. And then the third slot, there's a lot of ways you could go. I thought a lot about Verdugo. I agree with you. He had a really great first year in Boston. I think he's a lot better of a player than people give him credit for. I think he'll always kind of suffer a little bit perception-wise from the fact that he was the guy that got traded for Mookie Betts, so that'll always be the bar he's held to.
Yeah.
But that's not fair. I mean, just because he doesn't end up being Mookie Betts, the guy could end up being an 8-time All-Star, and a batting champion someday, and he won't be Mookie Betts, but does that mean he's a bad player and the Red Sox didn't get a good return? No, of course not. So I think he has a super high ceiling. There are other guys I considered. Chris Sale is a guy where if he comes back healthy, he could probably have another, 4 years, 5 years being one of the better pitchers in baseball. But in the same way, I didn't have the Yankees keep Severino because you don't know what he's going to be coming back from an injury. Not going to keep Sale for the Red Sox. Jeter Downs, another guy, top prospect, another part of the Mookie deal. I thought about him, but I decided on this guy because both of my Red Sox fan friends had him on their lists as a guy they would keep. I'm going Tristan Casas. He was their 2018 first-round pick, has an ETA of 2022. The dude is 20 years old. He's a corner infielder, so he plays first and third. So in this scenario, you're assuming if you pair him with Devers, he'd be the first baseman. And apparently he just mashes. So, I feel pretty good about the fact you have a 28-year-old, a 24-year-old, and a 20-year-old where they can all impact you in the immediate future, and you can realistically get a good, 7-8 years out of that group of 3. So I know there's no pitcher. There were really no pitching prospects to go with, and I didn't want to gamble on Sale. Tanner Houck was a guy who we saw a little bit of last year. I don't know how the fuck to say his last name. I think it's Houck. But he was a guy I considered there too. But at the end of the day, both my friends are speaking really highly of Casas. Like I said, I'm not going to pretend to be a farm expert for any team, so I'm going to go with him.
Yeah, I agree with that list. I'm good with it. I am very glad you didn't put Sale on the list. I was kind of thinking that you might, just based on the fact that you did want a pitcher, and someone to kind of lead that staff. Yeah, I think I've said my opinion on Sale in the past, and on this show. I don't think he is going to come back, even a half of what he was in the past. I think he's going to struggle a lot. It's not even the fact that it's Tommy John. A lot of guys come back from that. That's no issue. It's the fact to me that his velocity was down and was down even, potentially before he was injured. And I think that coming off that, his slider is going to be a lot less effective. I don't see him being the same pitcher that he once was. And I think that it's going to be tough to watch him get paid a lot of money and kind of be at best maybe like a second or third arm. So I don't think he returns to ace form. But Chris Sale, prove me wrong. Go for it. But he's not the future of the Red Sox. I wouldn't take him.
I mean this respectfully. I hope he doesn't return to ace form. And this isn't, look, I know that I'm not trying to wish injury on anyone. I hope he comes back and plays a healthy another 5, 6 years, whatever he wants to. But I've seen enough of him mow down the Yankees. I've seen him eliminate us from the playoffs. I've seen him win a World Series. I liked it way better when he had half an elbow in 2019 and we were beating up on him and scoring 7 runs on him in Yankee Stadium. So I don't even need that. Just like you said, if he just returns to like somewhat of normalcy and he's like a number 3 pitcher with like a 4 ERA, I'm cool with that. But please, for the love of God, if he goes back to being a Cy Young candidate every year and the Red Sox complete the rebuild faster than anticipated, I'm not going to have fun with that. So I'm hoping that Chris Sale isn't the old Chris Sale anymore. He could be like 70% of his old self.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No. And when I say that, healthy, I want him to be a terrible healthy. You know.
Yeah, I don't.
I want him to be
anybody.
Yeah. I want him to feel the best he has in years. I just don't want him to pitch well.
Yeah, I want him to feel great and simultaneously lose like 4 miles per hour on his fastball.
Yeah. And he's been a workhorse. He's had his prime. I think that he, at the end of the day, if his career ended today, he'd call himself a successful career. So
I think he's a Hall of Famer if he retires tomorrow. I don't think that's, you look at the stretch that he had with the White Sox and the first 2 years with the Red Sox, guy was absolutely dominant. So I think he's going to be a guy you think about in the next breath after Kershaw, Verlander, Scherzer. So I think he's a Hall of Famer, but hopefully he's not what he was pre-injury.
Yeah, with all that said, we're not taking him. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like he's been had too high of a workload too the past few years. Obviously before the injury. So I think it's with combining that with the velo going down significantly, it just scares me in the future. So I'm confident in my list of Verdugo, Bogarts, and Devers.
Right. All right. So that's it, guys. This was the AL East. This was fun. We're planning on doing this for every single division, all 30 teams, who they would keep in a redraft, unless this video gets like 3 views, and then maybe we won't do it again, but we'll see. So comment.
We're at least going to the next one. Yeah,
we'll do one more. We'll do one more minimum. I'll watch the video a couple times myself if I have to, but comment below, who would you keep? What did we get right? What did we get wrong? Tweet us. We'll put the ads in the video. Bert, you got anything?
No, I'm good. I'm excited to do what, AL Central next?
Yeah, we'll probably go to the AL Central next.
Yeah, I'm excited to do that. Yeah, a lot of interesting teams there. A lot of farm systems that we don't know that we got to do research on. So I'm excited for that.
I have some strong takes on the Detroit Tigers. I don't know who would you keep top of the head? I don't know.
Casey Mize is the lock. I'm pretty sure. He was the number 1 overall pick, 2018. I think that's what the year was. He's supposed to be like just an absolute stud. I think he's the only person on that team. Miguel Cabrera, I don't know, just for fun.
Remember when
he paid him $45 million, Detroit.
Remember when? Yeah, imagine they have a chance. There's a redraft. They have like a direct chance to get out of his contract, and they still don't do it. They're like, I'm fine.
We're like, remember Dontrelle Willis? We got him, right?
Like, Jesus Christ. All right, guys, this was fun. Like I said, comment below, roast us, call your mom if you watch our other videos.
And then like, comment, subscribe.
Yeah, tell her to like, comment, subscribe. So, all right, guys, take it easy.
See you next time.